It's Thursday, June 23. In the headlines, children are still missing from classrooms. Motorists should see a decline in gas prices. Regionally, today is election day in Grenada. And further afield, U.S. President calls for the suspension of federal gas tax for 3 months. In sports, an unchanged squad for second test against Bangladesh. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. Residents of several Kingston and St. Andrew communities are being urged to store water to serve for up to 3 days. National Water Commission, NWC, has announced planned supply disruptions because of works to be carried out on its systems this weekend. The NWC says contractors will be undertaking the final phase of interconnection works for the new pipeline installed along Spanish Town Road. It says the activities will start at 8 a.m. on Friday and end on Sunday at 10 p.m. The NWC says 2 to 3 days will be required based on the extensive nature of the work. Areas to be impacted: Corville Gardens and New Haven, Marcus Garvey Drive, Spanish Town Road and all roads leading off, including Atlantic Boulevard, sections of Washington Gardens and sections of downtown Kingston. There has been an incorrect iteration of the regulations for the state of a public emergency declared in the parish of St. Catherine. So says Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister responsible for national security, Dr. Horace Chang. He said the wrong document was tabled in the House on Tuesday and has instructed an investigation into how the error occurred. Minister Chang says the correct document, which is in keeping with the recent court ruling, will be tabled in the House of Representatives on Thursday and the Senate on Friday. Schools across the island have been open to face-to-face learning since the start of the year. Yet, despite efforts by the Education Ministry, schools and municipal representatives, thousands of children are still missing classes. Acting principal for Yallis Primary School, Ainsley Mackenzie, is one of several school administrators who are hitting the streets to ensure no child is left behind.
We have gotten some positive responses from some citizens from the community, and we are going to be coming to those persons who are not coming to us. We need the parents to come out. We're not seeing them at PTA. We're not seeing them when we invite them at school. We are not seeing a number of students from COVID. So we are really trying our best to get in touch with these parents and these students.
Mr. Mackenzie and his team have been taking time to visit homes in surrounding areas to get in touch with students, informing parents that support is available to get the children back in class. He says the initiative began as efforts to save boys displaying delinquent behavior, but it has expanded.
As time goes by, we'll extend to other communities and we'll spread our wings and we'll continue to work hard so that our students can get a solid education.
Anne-Marie Kelly lives in the Hampstead area. She thinks it's a good move.
And coming out to speak to the parents, I think it's a good idea to see what is the problem, why the children not coming out, why parents not coming to parent-teacher meeting and stuff, because we know education is good for the children. And if they are not going to school, they cannot be educated, because, you know, most of the parents, some of them got to have things hard. Sometimes some can't find it, sometimes some can't find it.
Pastor Leroy Moore is part of the team.
This exercise was a very wonderful one.
This parent says he's touched by the visit.
It's not everybody gonna reach out and come at the school and state them problem, but we don't know what go on because we not living in the community. But we were in the community now, we can show you, say, all right, she's really unfortunate, that's why she now come out. This is the problem. So we don't really like that. A long time I don't come at parents-teacher meeting, and me don't want to be the first one to step up. You get what I said, so we can work with the school and we can get this done. Because education is the key.
After months of searching for thousands of students missing from the classroom via its yard-to-yard Find the Child initiative, ministry officials have reported that more than 20,000 children are still not attending school. Face-to-face classes was suspended in 2020 due to the contagious coronavirus pandemic. The Education Ministry had instituted online classes, but even then, some students could not attend. The Jamaica Social Stock Exchange, JSSE, is seeking funding for 3 projects slated for social intervention. Managing Director of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, of which the JSSE is a subsidiary, Dr. Marlene Street Forest, says the listed engagements are the Stop the Violence project, formerly Love Changes Lives, being administered by the Spring Praise Jamaica, which is seeking $17 million. The Shalom project, submitted by Choose Life International, that is seeking to raise $10 million, and the Jammin Music Entrepreneurship project, for which $6 million is being sought by the Agency for Inner City Renewal. They are among the initial 5 social intervention initiatives that were listed and came to market in 2019 when the JSSE was launched. Through these facilities, the entity focuses on using music and entrepreneurship initiatives to create an alternative pathway for young persons who would normally be engaged in illicit activities. The long-term goal is to provide learners with certification to facilitate their matriculation to tertiary education in music-based disciplines. The JSE boss is urging members of the diaspora, whom she says have indicating a key interest in engaging in social investments locally. Dr. Claire Grant, General Manager of Television Jamaica, has been elected to head the Caribbean Broadcasting Union Board. She replaces Kaylisa DeVoe Isaacs, the former General Manager of the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas. The CBU is a not-for-profit association of public service and commercial broadcasters in the Caribbean. Grant has over 30 years of media experience, starting at the Jamaica Gleaner before moving to TVJ. In the business report, gas prices are down. We have that plus our regular market updates with Danita Rodney at the business desk.
Effective Thursday, June 23, gas will see a reduction of 25 cents, while diesel is up $4.50. State-owned oil refinery Petrojam says E10, 87, and 90 will be sold for $215.39 and $220.41 respectively. Automotive diesel oil, which will attract a $4.50 increase, will be sold for $227.51. This increase will also affect ultra-low sulfur diesel, which will now be sold for $220.25 per liter. Continuing with the $4.50 increase, kerosene will be sold for $201.81. In the meantime, propane is down by $1.92 and will be sold for $72.83, while butane will be sold for $81.93 per liter after a $2.50 decrease. Remember, retailers will add their own markups to the announced prices. The High-Pro division of the Jamaica Broilers Group has welcomed the return of the Dembe Agricultural, Industrial and Food Show to be held at the Dembe Showground from July 30 to August 1. The company has pledged its continued support as a major sponsor. Vice President of High-Pro, Colonel Jamie Ogilvie, says Dembe 2022 is a call to action for members of the agricultural sector to work together for the purpose of advancing the sector. He also says that food security has taken on even greater significance since the onset of COVID-19 and especially with the war in Ukraine. He says the industry should be prepared and ready not just for the domestic space but the great opportunities that are open to brand Jamaica and the quality and exclusivity that it represents internationally. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Wednesday, June 22, the US dollar sold for an average of $152.37. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $118.63. The pound sterling traded for $185.64, and the euro sold for an average of $161.55. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Wednesday's trading session. The JSE index declined by 624 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index declined by 2 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index declined by 606 points to close at over 300,000 units. And the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 286 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 103 stocks, of which 44 advanced, 44 declined, and 15 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Access Financial Services Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Berger Paints Jamaica Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 1834 Investments Limited, and Burrito Investments Limited. Trading firm were Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, Quest Corporation Limited Ordinary Shares, and ISP Finance Services Limited. The following companies represent the overall volume leaders: Dollar Financial Services Limited with over 42 million units, Trans Jamaican Highway Limited with over 8 million units, and Future Energy Source Company Limited Ordinary Shares with over 2 million units. In regional stocks in Trinidad and Tobago, 0 securities were traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Epley Caribbean Property Fund Development Fund was the volume leader with over 60,000 shares. They were followed by Epley Caribbean Property Fund Valley Fund, which traded 1,000 shares. Regional entrepreneurs are being encouraged to adapt and embrace digitization in the COVID-19 recovery environment. Director and Vice President of International Advisory Services at the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management, Fatima Drakes, says digitization has created new opportunities for businesses.
Besides the negative impact of the pandemic, we could see many opportunities arising from this. You had to explore the world digitally. Digitalization in particular has created so many new things, so many new opportunities for your business as well. This was for us all the showcase that we all had to learn, that we need to adapt and to learn new things. Confucius once said, if you know what you know and what you do not know, that is true knowledge.
Ms. Drakes delivered the remarks during a virtual graduation ceremony for 42 Caribbean entrepreneurs who completed the Future Tourism Business Adaptation Program. While congratulating the graduates, CDB's Operations Manager Mitchell Thomas highlighted the main objectives of the project. He encouraged the graduates to implement their new skills to assist the region's post-COVID recovery.
I trust that the training delivered in digital technologies, financial planning, and marketing under the program was found to be relevant and fully embraced by you, the beneficiary MSME representatives. It is now expected that you will seek to apply the knowledge and skills acquired to enhance the operations and competitiveness of your respective businesses and to be better placed to fully maximize the significant rebound of travel and indeed tourist arrivals in the region.
In market data for oil prices hedged higher after earlier falls as investors weighed the risk of recession and how fuel demand will be affected by rising interest rates and tight supplies. Brent crude rose 38 cents or 0.3% to $112.12, and West Texas Intermediate crude were up 32 cents or 0.3% at $106.51 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Denita Rodney.
In regional news, Grenadians go to the polls today. The snap general elections will see the incumbent Prime Minister Keith Mitchell seeking a 6th term with his new national party. The NNP swept the polls in the last 2 general elections, winning all 15 seats in Parliament. Mr. Mitchell, who is 75 years old, is one of the longest-serving heads of government in the Caribbean community, has already signaled that this election would be his last as leader of the party. The NNP will face a challenge from the main opposition National Democratic Congress, who is contesting the elections with the young attorney Dickon Mitchell at the helm. Dr. Keith Mitchell called on supporters to turn out in large numbers early to cast their votes in favor of returning the NNP to office.
After more than 3 decades in politics, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell made his last stand before the electorate on Tuesday night. Citizens are preparing to go to the polls on Thursday to make their final decision as to who should lead the country for the next 5 years. In a speech that lasted for just about 20 minutes at the Wester Hall playing field, Dr. Mitchell called for supporters to turn out in their numbers to vote the new National Party, while at the same time reminding them that this is the last rally he will lead to the polls.
This is the end. This rally will be the last rally that I'm addressing as leader of the new National Party going into a general election. Listen to my words carefully. This is the last rally that I would be addressing going into a general election.
The new National Party launched its manifesto on Tuesday, and Dr. Mitchell urged the electorate to read the document. He, however, acknowledged that words are nothing without a plan.
It might be a document with a lot of words. Words don't mean anything until it is backed up by a plan to implement what you have on paper. Sisters and brothers, this team here have the experience.
Prime Minister Mitchell also made a special case for the NNP's candidate for St. David's, Oliver Joseph, who goes up against the political leader of the National Democratic Congress, Kieron Mitchell, on Election Day.
Oliver is an important member of the team that is going to deliver. So if you keep Oliver outside of the House of the Parliament, you are weakening me as your leader, sisters and brothers. And it is said, the leader is as strong as the team that he has around him, sisters and brothers.
Dr. Mitchell ended his last stand by thanking the people of Grenada and asking them for one for the road. For GBA News, Janelle MacDonald.
A new report suggests Bermuda has the highest gas and diesel prices in the region, beating out the Bahamas, Barbados and the Turks and Caicos. The Utility Regulation Office in the Cayman Islands has been scrutinizing the cost of imported fuel as prices at the pump continues to rise globally. More from Bermuda Broadcasting.
The Utility Regulation and Competition Office is the independent regulatory authority of the Cayman Islands. It's tasked with inspecting the utilities and other sectors and has released its latest fuel price comparison survey for the month of June. The Cayman Islands, a fellow overseas territory with a similar population size to Bermuda, averaged around 6 CI dollars per gallon for regular gas and diesel fuel. That's $7.32 in US dollars, or the median average cost for similar sized countries in the region. However, Bermuda placing significantly higher up on the chart at a cost of $9 CI or around $10 USD for fuel and $12 CI or $14 USD for diesel. In February of this year, the Bermuda government introduced a price freeze on fuel import duty in an effort to absorb some of the impact of globally rising gas prices. Duty on fuel was reduced down from 75 cents per gallon. Premier and Finance Minister David Byrd argues that if the government hadn't imposed a fuel price freeze, it would now be significantly higher.
I would certainly challenge that we have the highest fuel price in the region because of the fuel price freeze in which we've given, and given the massive increases which we've seen. I was looking at prices in the United Kingdom and almost trying to compare them. And if we take into account the exchange rate, I actually think that our gas prices are less than what is being seen at the pump inside of the United Kingdom.
Responding to an article in the Daily published last week, Premier Byrd rejected a claim by local economists that the fuel duty price freeze was a blunt and less effective measure in assisting the most vulnerable. Cayman retailers in some instances have been absorbing some level of increases and playing their part to assist consumers. Here in Bermuda, retail gas prices at the pump have been steadily hovering around $8 per gallon.
In Trinidad and Tobago, while responding to an urgent question in the House of Representatives on Wednesday, the Minister of Trade and Industry said the increase in flour prices is only a temporary situation. Mahala Joseph Wharton has more.
Minister of Trade and Industry Paula Gopi-Skoon said the increase as announced by National Flour Mills and Nutrimix is beyond their control and is due to supply chain issues brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic, increased prices in freight and shipping rate, adverse weather conditions and the ongoing conflict in Ukraine.
Let me say that the price of wheat is not within our control and is symptomatic of the ongoing global food crisis. It should be noted that there are no duties, there are no taxes attached to wheat imports. And this government has also been proactive during fiscal 2022 to the zero rating of basic food items and the suspension of the CET on basic food items.
She said both of this country's producers of flour have committed to adjusting prices downward in line with future market conditions. Minister Gopi-Skoon said so far this country has the lowest price in flour in CARICOM.
Most of the countries in CARICOM have increased the price of flour at least once this year. However, even with this increase, it is to be noted that flour in Trinidad and Tobago will still be on an average of 19% cheaper than in other CARICOM countries.
She said while there is an increase of approximately 33%, it is not expected that the cost of finished flour-based items will be increased.
It is also expected that retailers will seek to control their markups having regard to the current situation. But I give the assurance to the population that government is actively looking at solutions in support of the poor and vulnerable in this particular circumstance.
Despite the challenges faced by schools throughout the SVG, having had to deal with a dengue fever outbreak, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the eruption of the Lusufia volcano, students who wrote this year's Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment did very well. More from SVG News.
I wish to congratulate all of our students who wrote the 2022 CPEA examination. Your performance is indeed encouraging. When one considers the challenges confronting you since 2020, where in grade 4 you were faced with the COVID-19 pandemic, that is still with us today, the eruption of the volcano, the passage of Hurricane Elsa, as well as the challenges that emerge from the fact that a number of our teachers did not take the vaccine as prescribed, and hence some of these teachers were in fact teaching your classes. The fact that you were able to put all of this behind you and perform wonderfully well says a lot about your commitment and your resilience. And therefore, I want to congratulate you and commend you for your performance.
The preliminary results indicate that the percentage of students who met the prescribed standard was 83.87%, a 1 percentage point decrease compared to 84.96% in 2022. Of the students who met the prescribed standard, 78.11% were males and 89.72% females. Minister King said it is his hope that the results next year will increase up to 100% pass rate.
In Guyana, students across the country have been preparing for the upcoming National Grade 6 assessment, but some 700 pupils were absent from the second mock examination held in May. That's according to Education Minister Prior Manikand.
When we began Operation Recovery, it was to recover 1,400 plus students, just over 1,400, and that was after the first mock exam. By the time we had the second mock exam, I think just over 700 students were absent, so almost like 50% of the students had come back. 700 is still too high, but it's not very different from pre-COVID numbers.
That was Priya Manikchand, the Minister of Education, speaking to reporters at the sidelines of an event on Wednesday. According to her, hundreds of children were absent from a preparatory examination which was held on May 11th and 12th. But that figure was significantly lower than the more than 1,300 children absent from an earlier assessment. Even so, she posited that children's absenteeism has been worrying during the COVID-19 pandemic, as it may have led to school dropouts, a phenomenon that the ministry is diligently working with stakeholders to curtail.
Operation Recovery is going on in September, and we're going to be joined by some NGOs, FBOs, and so on in September. So in essence, what the ministry is doing by partnering with these and collaborating with these FBOs and civil society organizations is giving ourselves more resources as far as social workers.
Based on reports globally, the COVID-19 pandemic and the protracted closure of schools has resulted in learning losses, including school dropouts. A recent World Bank report stated that the lower than optimal levels of educational engagement suggest severe learning losses and an increase in dropout rates. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Vishani Raghavir.
In sports, the National Junior and Senior Athletics Championships gets underway today, Thursday, June 23 at the National Stadium. The competition will run from June 23 until June 26. The Jamaica Athletics Championship is an annual outdoor track and field competition organized by the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, the JAAAs, which serves as the national championship for the sport in Jamaica. Action will start around 3:30 p.m. Jamaica's under-20 Reggae Boys have made progress to the round of 16 at the CONCACAF Youth Championship after defeating Antigua and Bermuda 2-0 in Honduras on Wednesday. Goals in both halves from Zion Scarlett and Jamari Clark helped the young Jamaicans to their first victory of the competition. Jamaica remains third but moved to 4 points, the same as Costa Rica, who has a better goal difference. Honduras topped the group with a maximum of 9 points after beating Costa Rica 1-0 for their third straight win. West Indies pacer Kieron Roach has made substantial progress in the latest ICC men's test player rankings after his man-of-the-match performance in the first test against Bangladesh over the weekend. Roach has moved back into the top 10 for bowlers for the first time in more than 2 years. He grabbed 7 wickets in the Antigua test, including a 5-wicket haul in the second innings. He's now 8th in the rankings, jumping from 12th, which puts him 1 place off his all-time best of 7th back in December 2014. Other Windies bowlers advancing are Kyle Mayers, who is now up 5 places to 40th, while Alzari Joseph is up 9 places to 48th. In the batting, skipper Craig Brathwaite is up 1 place to 28th after scoring 94 in the first innings of that first test. Jermaine Blackwood has advanced 6 places to 33rd and John Campbell up 11 places to 81st. Meanwhile, Roach has been reacting to his elevation.
I always work hard, obviously, to keep and remain relevant, and to be amongst the 10 best bowlers in the world right now in Test cricket is amazing. It's a good feeling. Being the amount of Test cricket we play, not as much as most teams, but it's good to perform and do well for the West Indies, and it's a good feeling, man. Hopefully we can move higher and higher. Hopefully after this test match, I can make a couple more steps up to the ladder.
The Windies squad held its first practice session at the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground on Wednesday. Roach says if the groundsmen prepare a traditional pitch for that venue, then he expects the Pacers will have another surface to assist them.
It's one of the best wickets in the Caribbean. It offers a lot for the fast bowlers, so I haven't seen the wicket as yet. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect. But hopefully today at practice, you have a good look at the wicket and then we plan going forward. So, yeah, it's usually one of the better wickets for fast bowling in the Caribbean.
The Windies have named an unchanged 13-member squad for the second test against Bangladesh. The remainder of the team, Craig Brathwaite, captain, Jermaine Blackwood, and Nkrumah Bonner, John Campbell, Joshua Da Silva, Alzari Joseph, Kyle Mayers, Gudakesh Moti, Anderson Phillip, Raymond Reefer, Kieron Roach, and Jaden Seals and Devon Thomas. The second test is set for the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground in St. Lucia from Friday starting at 9 a.m. Jamaica time. And that's the news on PBC Jamaica. Remember to follow us on all our social media pages at PBC Jamaica. Thanks for watching.